Now I'd like to shift over to talking about our economy. And the reason why I picked this picture was on the bottom of the back of our $1 bill, there's a little phrase called Novus Ordo Seclorum. Novus Ordo Seclorum is traced back to the lines of a Roman poet, Virgil, and it means a new order of the ages. I think that we're entering into a new order of the ages. It was written on there to reflect on the new American era following the Declaration of Independence, but we are entering, I believe, into a new American era and a new order of the ages. I think that for a few reasons. Number one, we're going to improve our supply chains tremendously. This has been a wake-up call to CEOs and other businesses around the world to work on the supply chains that are threatened by other countries. Number two, there's going to be less dependence on China. There's going to be more manufacturing and pharmaceuticals in the United States. Number three, we're going to have better preparedness for the next epidemic or pandemic. And number four, there's going to be improved technologies for workplaces and the ability to stay home and work. If you've noticed, Trump has been calling this now a war with an invisible enemy. And it's important to pick up on some of those clues because we've never changed presidents during the middle of a war going back in our country's history. So it's important to pick up on some of those subtleties that we're seeing our president talk about. Our economy is made up of several different pieces. As you can see in this chart, this is the components of our GDP as of December of last year. And you'll notice that the big chunk of our economy comes from United States consumers. 68.1% of our consumption makes up our entire GDP. Now, as you saw today in the Wall Street Journal, unemployment is off the charts. These are projections. These are estimates by an economist. Others differ on the numbers, but we're seeing a lot of jobs being projected to be shed and the unemployment rate to be spiking to really unprecedented levels. This is unprecedented on so many levels. To put this into context, the highest monthly unemployment rate on record going back to 1948 is 10.8%, set in 1982 during the deep recession under President Reagan. As we saw, the unemployment rate for March rose to 4.4% from 3.5%, and it was the largest one-month increase in the rate since 1975. Some economists project 17 million jobs will be shed versus these 27.9%, 27.9 million jobs, I'm sorry. However, they expect the economy will recover late in 2021, 2022, and a lot of economists are expecting this to be a quick bounce back. Here's some projections from the Conference Board, which is a pretty good set of economists. There's three different versions they have projected. There's a May reboot, which says that we assume that the peak for the United States happens by mid-April, and then economic activity may gradually resume in May. There's also some that believe that we'll have more of a summertime V-shape, where the peak will happen and be delayed in May, and therefore our GDP would drop by 5.5%. And then there's those that think the fall recovery is more likely to happen. If that happens, there's projections that we could have a decrease of 6% in our GDP. The truth is, nobody really knows what kind of V-shape we're going to have. But these are some projections, and because of the unprecedented speed of this, and because this is considered an event-driven bear market, there's hope that we could bounce back quicker than people are expecting. We're also seeing changes in our purchasing. When I went a couple weeks ago to Walmart, and I was really what I'd call panic buying because I looked at all the shelves and they're all empty, and I'm grabbing my cashew nut flour and coconut milk because there was no milk and there was no flour. And I brought it home to my wife and she was like, "What is this?" And I said, "This is surviving." So while I was there buying these essentials like cashew nut flour, I saw people there buying a 65-inch flat screen TV, and a guy had an entire cart filled with Bud Light for $170. What we're seeing in recent weeks is that we're buying more survival products. 74% increase in food and beverages, 50% increase in personal care, 47 household cleaning items, and over-the-counter medicine. We're also seeing an increase in alcoholic beverages, entertainment. We have to have our Netflix. Beauty products, which I thought was surprising since I read that 31% of women are now not wearing makeup, and a 15% increase in electronics. So there's a change in the purchasing trends, but the bottom line is Americans are addicted to spending. We are addicted, and we will get what we want and buy our material goods no matter what kind of crisis we go through. This chart shows the types of volatility that you can expect from stocks, bonds, and a mix of 50-50 portfolio. And as you see in this red section, in 1 year, going back from 1950 to 2019, you see that in 1 year, there's a lot of volatility in stocks represented by the S&P 500. You can see that in any given year, the S&P 500 could be down 39%, or it could be up 47%. However, as you hold on to stocks and bonds over longer periods of time, you see that 10-year rolling averages for these are much improved, and you'll see that they kind of flatten out over time. So again, in the short run, anything can really happen, but in longer times, intelligent investors are rewarded. We also see that the Fed has really tried to cater to the panic, and we see a complete drop in the Fed's fund rate. The group of major industrial countries known as the G7 said they were ready to take actions, including fiscal measures where appropriate, to aid in the response of the virus. This came from the United States, Japan, Germany, Britain, France, Italy, and Canada. So we're seeing a lot of countries and their central banks come together, and I think that that's hopefully helping calm some of the investors and the citizens of their countries. I did want to talk briefly about the relationship between bond prices and yields. This is important. So again, going back and seeing this drop in the bond yields or the Fed fund rate, what happens typically is when bond yields fall, bond prices rise in value. And we see that right here. As we look at the US Treasuries starting in December and looking at what happened to them in March, you see that they all dropped. The yields fell, and therefore bonds appreciated. And the longer term or longer duration bonds appreciated much more. You'll see the 30-year appreciated 25%. But look at the yield. It's now at 1.35%. And so we're seeing a lot of things change by the Fed that are worth pausing and considering. We're also seeing that our lives are changing. These are some of the recent searches that have really spiked. Some of them are how to cut your own hair, toilet paper delivery. We got to have our toilet paper. How to make beer at home. What to watch on Netflix, cabin fever. So there's opportunities, and opportunities abound. Necessity is the mother of invention. And one of the inventions I saw yesterday was a college student came up with a mask for the hearing impaired that had a clear screen in front of the mouth. That way people could see what they were trying to say amidst a typical mask would cover their mouth and they wouldn't be able to see and kind of hear what they were saying. So we're gonna see a lot of invention and a lot of creativity and a lot of adaptation. As you're seeing, we're doing our first Friday via video conference. But there's 3 mega trends that I do want to share with you, and that is digital transformation. 80% of our current data sphere, of the data that's out there, was created in the last 6 years. Let that sink in. 80% of our current data was created in the last 6 years. More striking is that it's expected to quadruple over the next 5 years. So digital transformation is a huge megatrend that's happening. Number 2 is healthcare innovation. Baidu, a Chinese multinational technology company, said it's making its AI algorithm, artificial intelligence algorithm, that can analyze the genome secondary structure of the new coronavirus within 27 seconds. This is just amazing what our healthcare is doing. And comparing that to the 1918, a lot of people compare it to the 1918 Spanish flu. Our healthcare systems and technology are so much more advanced. And number 3, the other big mega trend I'm seeing is sustainability. Over 800 million people around the world are living undernourished, so they don't have enough food. And an estimated 2 billion people are experiencing moderate or severe food insecurity. However, we're wasting 1/3 of our food that is intended for human consumption ends up in the garbage. So there's a lot of opportunity to help sustain our world.